Cool. Welcome back to A.A.M.I.l.y. I'm Z, joined as always by Sun Yoga and Win-Lung, and today Kara and Bridgette and Ken, A.K.A. Kot and Bol. How you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Awesome.
So good to be here.
Yeah. Cool. So, the Om, I think, is a perfect lead-in to what you and I were talking about a few minutes ago about family. What does family mean to you guys?
So family is an acronym we use to describe 6 elements that we work with. I'm going to go from the why, because it's why we do it, and that's yoga. And yoga meaning union, and the deepest union that we can have is with our Creator. So having that focus on God is the first foundation of our experience and trying to understand this world that we live in, and how best to act. And so each letter is representative of an element. Yoga, love, which is the most important energy that we feel is present in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
That love comes from God and is an energy that we can receive from God, and it is also an energy that we can share with each other in our environment. Inspiration as the I, which is I'm inspired by God's love and the love that we share with each other, and each of us has gifts inside of us that we're meant to do something in this world, in a way that I feel inspired to do something, and each of us has that inside of us. Like when we were young, we had these dreams to do something in the world. So it's helping people to tap into that, and obviously trying to inspire people to be better people. Music is a way that I've been inspired, so that's the M, to share my own experience, and has been such a healing modality for expressing personally, and also receiving from going to concerts and having amazing experiences and sound healings, and just the benefits of the frequency of music. Art, which is the A, which is also expression of the soul, whatever medium we work through, whether it's painting or ceramics, amazing ceramics that you make. So putting our energy into something that's created, that you can share with somebody. And then food, which we love to cook, and is something that we all do. We all need to eat to sustain our physical bodies. And we try to do it in a way that is beneficial to not only our own bodies, but to everybody else, that is honoring our neighbors and the environment around us, so honoring the animals and just nature in general. So those 6 elements that we focus on.
Yeah,
the healing potential of each of those elements.
Cool. I think the group Om encompasses all those things. You've got the energy coming in for your yoga. You can easily resonate with love when you Om. It's food for the soul. I'm really glad that you wanted to start the show that way, and I hope all of our viewers joined us, and if you didn't, rewind the video. Join us in retrospect.
Yeah. Come with us.
Yeah, and it is a way of really like synchronizing our own energies, because it's a resonance from our soul that when we're next to somebody and we're oming, it's like these wavelengths have a potential of synchronizing, depending upon our own openness to, receiving and sharing that energy.
It's almost like it also shakes loose any roots we have of thought or moment. We kind of re-gold pan into that now. Yeah,
Clear the space.
yeah.
Yeah. A.A.A, perfect. I mean, I love your guys' philosophy and bringing people together and sharing, what we love to do, and in a way that is hopefully inspiring to people that are watching. And yeah, I love it.
We
The
hope
guest
so.
that you've already had, your mom was here. She's amazing.
Yeah.
You can see how she's, gifted you with so much space, I guess, to be who you are. It shows in your artwork. I think you're like one of the most amazing artists. It's like a blend of Picasso and Dali and I can't even think, but it's
Frody.
Frode. Yeah, just
Thank
really
you.
amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely was blessed to have good pillars to swing through. And I feel honored to have you guys here on the show as well. I mean, that was one of my first thoughts, was like, oh yeah, when are we going to have, King and Bridgette?
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
So going back to what you were saying, how do we bring this idea of family and these pillars of, the acronym of family as you described it into our daily lives, and then what is also like your specific vision for the future of how to grow that and develop it into like an offering for the community and the world?
Yeah, I think it's our vision. Our main goal is to have a nonprofit healing sanctuary and learning center that's based around those elements, and to have, an area that we're able to self-sustain, so grow enough food to provide for everybody that's a part of it, and overflow to share with others, and just being the example, living in a way that is harmonious with our ideals. So through food, we eat a plant-based diet. It's all, no animal meat, no dairy. And the main reason is for the animals, like the way that we have been treating animals.
And the vibration that when you're not treating the animal or the people that are creating that, what are their vibration that's bringing it into the world is like, that is not, I believe it's not healing. Like if people are constantly hurting something, then, they're bringing more of that into the world. So if we can live in a way that's, and every action that we're doing is bringing a positive vibration, I feel like that can only do good than not. So, like...
Have a ripple effect.
Yeah, it's like your vibration is rippling out into the universe. And, like, I feel like the more that we understand that, like, it doesn't, some people may think, oh, it doesn't matter this one time, but does it really matter? Like, how do we, maybe some of us know, but...
My stepdad once said, you can't ever take the ripple out of the bucket, and every drop affects the bucket.
That's a good one.
I like that.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm going to be using that.
Rock it. Yeah. Let the wisdom ripple. Yeah. As it has always.
Yeah, and each element, creating space in our own lives for cooking, for growing food, for understanding the nutritional value in the food and how it affects our bodies. So really learning as much as we can about those processes that are happening inside of ourselves, and the processes that are happening in the earth, and when plants grow, and working with the seasons. A really awesome book that James just let us borrow.
The Rudolf Steiner book.
Biodynamics, and understanding the fundamental things that I think are the most important is truth and love. Those two things, if we can focus on those things, the truth of everything, and the truth is that love is the most important thing. So when we are loving, we're being honest. Anytime that we're not being honest, it's not a loving act. And just seeking the truth, continually seeking what is true. So what is true about how those processes work, the science behind it all.
I know you were telling me that you're building like an Adobe oven from clay and different things you want to build, and you were also telling me about the sustainable, basically, garden beds you're building with the wood you have around you and other sticks and stuff, and not just buying. We were talking about not just going to Home Depot and buying brand new wood, but actually using what's around you and what you can build, and how that helps to not only benefit the food being grown, like you're saying, the wood and the water that it holds and will seep into the soil, but at the same time not cutting down more trees, and also not adding to that, but using what's around you too. So those are also a part of your ideas
Totally.
to
And something that is just inspiring to me. So that's like a part of the inspiration. I'm inspired by those natural building techniques, because I see it as building in a way that is not coming from a factory that has these, leftover byproducts of that process that are harmful to the environment, and cutting tons of trees when you can, which goes back to, we were talking last night about the native understanding of nature, and not feeling like we own anything.
Sure.
And that, there's companies that go out and buy forest land and cut down all the trees and sell those trees. So in one sense, it's like great that we can have these homes that are built with this wood and have this safe space for each of us. But that's only because it's been taken over, so to speak, by people and said, this is now mine, I claim this land, you have to pay a certain amount of money in order to be here, and you have to live by my rules. Yeah.
And we're born into that system too,
Totally.
and that's kind of all we've known.
Mm-hmm.
But as I think we've seen, the people of our time these days are asking, how was it before? And how did they do it and last so long? I think that's what I see a lot of people in our generation and younger and even older opening to. What are the other options? What are possibilities? Even in days of massive neighborhoods with houses built, there is still land for people to do things like this at times. And even what about for the people who live in this? How can we still somehow attempt to return in some ways? And because obviously we're not knocking down every single house and pulling up this concrete support. So how do we move forward?
Yeah.
And I think there's like a return to like intention-based action, right? Where, it's not enough to just do things kind of mindlessly and consume mindlessly. We want more, and I feel like this is something I notice just more and more people like desiring and seeking is, not just the thing itself or the outcome itself, but the intention behind it and like the journey behind it. And that's something that keeps coming up with so many people that we've been, talking to in these A.A.M.I.l.y podcasts. Is like, it's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. And I think that kind of comes back to your concept of family is, each of these elements are things that have, they're like basic pillars of life, right? And it's not just each individual pillar, but it's how we're doing them, and why we're doing them, and just kind of dialing it back to basics in that way of, really trying to
Set the intention.
Set the intention and putting more heart, more love into what we do. That eating is not just like, something that, we need to do mindlessly, right? And that like cooking is not just a chore, it's something that we can actually use to not only like nourish our bodies, but nourish our lives in general. Even though it's such a simple, like fundamental human thing.
But then it could be, so simple, but it also so complex. Like if we could look at it more deeply, like
Right.
if it was, to me, like eating, like if you could look at it under a microscope, like what it's all the different plants are doing within you. It's like this massive love from the earth when you like grow your own food, the healing it can bring to you. And so that's, I think like growing your own food and working with the earth is like giving the opportunity for the earth to really love you and you really love the earth. And it's like,
and so much of that is mental, right? So much of that is mental and spiritual, and you know, you can eat the most, you know, organically grown, you know, local beautiful food, but if you don't look at it as being such, then is it really benefiting you in that way? So I think there is like this mix of, you know, mental, emotional, spiritual, like thought or feeling that we can put into things that make it nourish us more than just like the sum of its parts, right? More than just the actual vitamins in the food. It's like that intention and maybe that like that projection of love onto that thing then comes back to feed us, and then we have all that much more, you know, love to then project back out because we've been taking that in, and it all just kind of like ebbs and flows in that way.
I think it leads to the conversation I heard on Gaia once about I think I might have mentioned this, the seed, the Russian farmer who knew the old way of taking a seed and putting it under your tongue for a few hours and letting it soak up your saliva and stuff, then taking that seed, putting it in the sunlight so the sun can activate it, then planting that seed, and that plant will now have what your body needs in it to be healthy and heal. And this is something that he said they've known in Russia for a long time, and people have been doing. It's very similar to almost the breast milk with a child, when you know the nipple will actually tell from the baby what the baby needs to be healthy, and then it will be created in the breast milk, which was an amazing
The milk
process.
changes to
Yes.
meet the baby's
much
needs,
more
the composition of it.
So that
take it one step further to plant it with your feet in the ground, because we release so much out of our feet that when you're standing on the place that you're planting, the earth is taking in that information as well. So you're giving the earth the information, you're giving the seed the information, and the intention obviously behind it, the act of doing those things is to have that communication and to have this plant fruit something that will be beneficial, and it's unique to each individual. That's why like when you're eating something that somebody else has grown in a way that is unique to their own style of growing, it might not be as beneficial as the plant that you grew. Even though the fruit might not look as perfect as that fruit, it's unique to your own energy, so to speak, and it helps to balance out your own body in a way that is much more so than that farm that's way over there. Nothing against that farm.
Yeah.
well, it's
Depending.
it's similar
mass-producing
when I say to
something,
pay attention to what's in front of you. The news and the happenings in Tallahassee that's their business. So they deal with that. There's crime, they deal with that. But, you know, because of the news and other things, we get these feeds and we're paying attention to Tallahassee, and then someone's getting robbed next to you over here and you're not paying attention because we're paying attention to these things we're supposed to pay attention to for news. When it's what I feel, what you need to address is always within your sphere of influence. You know, it's within your, and the more aware you are, and I think that's really what we're talking about here is these things like eating and food and all. We just keep talking about being more aware of the process. There's more going on here than we think.
And I like what you said about, you know, paying attention more to our immediate environment, because I think all of these like types of practices that we're talking about, right? It is like finding meaning in like these basic everyday things, right? And instead of having to go outside of ourselves or go to another country and have some like spiritual quest in another country or another city or something, we are, you know, we're finding it right here, and it is right in front of us, and we don't need to complicate things or create all these distractions for ourselves, because ultimately, like, yeah, you can go out, you know, outside and look for inspiration and meaning, but then ultimately I think so many people do end up just coming back home in a way where you just, you know, maybe you even move back to your hometown, and that's where you realize, like, man, I never needed to leave. I never needed to even, like, that was just kind of putting the expectation outwards when it's been right here in front of us, and we can take these like simple everyday kind of things that everyone does anyways, and insert more meaning into it and more intention and more awareness into it, and then all of a sudden like your everyday life can become so magical for you, and like these everyday mundane things are all of a sudden like so like just amazing.
Yeah.
I do think there's like, you know, the more we talk, the more I hear that everything that we're speaking about is like a reattuning. You know, all these emotional realms, all these intentional realms. We're trying to come back into the here and now to experience the full profundity of, you know, the seed and the flower and the tree. And, you know, there's that saying, you experience one thing fully, you've experienced them all. And I do think as humans, we miss out on the wisdom of this depth of human experience by having specialization, where we have a guy down the street who does this one thing and you who do one thing, rather than we who do everything for ourselves. Yeah, I planted that, I germinated that, I harvested that, I grew that, I shared that. You know, there's so much wisdom we're missing out on by not doing that, in my opinion. It's like that transcendentalism, you know, the God in nature. You know, and I think we feel we know better than nature, saying that we figured out a way to do more. You know, now I can sit here and never move and order everything I need. And we think that we can learn as a human, but we're missing out on the dirt in the hands and the smell of the fruit before we pick it. And like these things that are very important, in my opinion, that I could see you guys, you feel that beauty in your experience and the richness of, you know, having a planter made from things you found. And
So this is where family and community come in, because I'm going to starve. If you guys are expecting me to grow all my own food, that's it. I'm going to be on a water diet.
Where are you getting that water from?
Right. So, you know, I need you guys around me to help me and show me how to do these things.
We got you,
Because
man.
Each
Yeah.
other.
And that's a
Growing-
major part of why
growing
we-
plants is not one of my gifts.
Yes, that's definitely a huge intention, is just bringing us back together as the family that we are. Whether or not we realize it, we are all brothers and sisters, and the more that we can open up to sharing love with one another and really caring for each other. My neighbor's hungry, I have tons of food, I'm obviously going to share it with them because I care for them.
Yeah, we love to cook and we love to enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, so bringing us
Yeah.
all back together as a family, that's like the main intention behind our travels and why we do what we do. We go to places, we cook for people, and we
Yeah.
Yeah.
I brought some amazing food in last night. And
just enjoying each other's presence and the gifts that we each have to share, because each of us does have these things that are unique to each of us.
Exactly. And those elements we picked from, you know, that bring the word family, there's also, I mean, there's so much more, but I think like the art and the music and it's like learning to express what your passions are. So maybe it's not art or music, but it's something else that makes your heart shine and makes you who you are, you know, your gifts that you bring to the world. It's like when we can tap into that and learn to express ourselves, we're not like stifling this being within you. And it's like, otherwise, you know, it's like, I feel like people get frustrated or they're not who they are. They're like, but once you can learn to express yourself and not hold those things in, like, I don't know, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
it's like,
you do
and-
know.
yeah, and,
You do know.
He always says that. I like that. Yeah.
yeah, it's like
That-
it's like, I don't know, that's one thing that we, on our little mission together, when we first came together, we were like, we want to help people, like, we want to help, you know, people heal and like help the world heal. And it's like, I feel like when people are sharing their passions, like, the more we can, we also help others. We inspire them, and they're like, "Hey, you're your weird funky self. I can be my funky self." Like,
And no one is your weird funky self, and we need your weird funky self.
Yeah.
I do.
I will bring the weird funk everywhere I go.
Cool. We'll all share.
Yeah, we help each other grow like that. Like,
In these times that seem to be, there's a lot of idea of separation and divide in the media aspect, at least. And I remember one of my favorite rappers, Abstract Rude, immediately when a lot of this was going on. I wouldn't say, obviously it's been going on for a while, but there was a certain point the thing he chose to stay on social media was stay strong and don't let them divide us. They're attempting to conquer and divide, and they're going to say, "Oh, you must like then you must be over here." And the idea of that family, that we're all brothers and sisters, is reintroducing that idea that no matter what race you come from, your gender, your sexual orientation, no matter what you want to choose, we are this one global family, what country you come from, and just continuing to share that concept that it still exists. We remember that concept exists, and we live into it. And I feel that's what this podcast is what you guys are doing. What we're attempting is just to continue to say, yes, there are things that can divide, and we can say, hey, well, I like to do this, and I do that's fine. But at the bottom, we're still this one thing, and we work together, and we do affect each other. So the more that we can have concepts that are thinking about our brothers and sisters in your own personal life, then you are also helping give back to that larger concept that though we are different, we are the same at a point. So let's remind each other of that.
I think that's too where the love is so important. It's like if we can do that with love in our hearts, understanding that we are different, but I still love you. Like you are my brother, but you do something different. That's cool. But we all still love and respect each other, love the land, love one another, and understand that maybe if somebody's having a bad day, it's like, but you still have that love for them. It's like they can, that they are on their own journey. Maybe soon they'll be in that loving space as well. But
to speak on that, let's just take a situation where someone who works on a cattle farm and they slaughter cattle and they eat meat and that stuff, and we're talk about love. It's really interesting because you have to go, okay, I love you. You're not following the philosophy we're following, but to go to them and say you shouldn't eat meat is not going to have them change in any way. That's the first way to conquer and divide, in a sense, is what you're doing is wrong, right? This is why we're getting away from the wrong, right, but learning to find that fluidity in between it. Like, I love you. I feel there's other ways to do what we're doing, and learning how to find. I know as young, I was always looking for concepts that we could unite on. Can we all say this place is called Earth? Okay, there's one. We got one. Can we all say these? And I was trying to find layers to stack that we could unite on before we found all the dividing layers. So how do we, become friends with that person who works on the cattle ranch and continue to grow with them to where we learn from each other and why they do that and why, and then they look at, well, why do you, and maybe we learn that way, and then slowly
And maybe, instead of being threatened by the way that you're different from someone and taking it as a threat to what you do, that script can be flipped by saying, okay, that person over there is doing something different than me. Does it make me want to change what I'm doing, or does it make me want to do what I'm doing all that much more and kind of have this righteous respect, right? Where you respect yourself, and that person is also looking at what you're doing and wondering if they should change what they do or if they should keep doing what they do, because that feels right for them. So there's this, I think, this respect for differences that comes in.
love.
And
And I was going to bring it to understanding there's levels of love.
Yeah.
So you can do something that you think is loving for you, your family, but in a universal aspect, unconditional love is across the board for everybody and everything. That unconditional love is not going to do something that is beneficial for me but hurts somebody or something else. So while it might be loving to provide for your family by working whatever you're doing, you have a farm, you're you're working with animals and potentially hurting and killing them. In one aspect, it's loving that you're providing for your family. It's I don't feel it's very loving to the animals to take their life away just to provide for yourself or your family or your community. So if we can understand love in its purest form,
Unconditional
is
love.
unconditional across the board for everybody and everything.
And that's what I kind of wanted to bring up, because terms like truth and love, which I've used nonstop in my life for the last 20-something years to grow, are so different for everybody. And there are different layers. And they can, some people can be like, yeah, you say love again. That's so vague. You know what I mean? What are we talking about here? And that's why I wanted to put more of a face on like the different layers of it, because I believe in it too, but we're talking unconditional love. I think that's what when we say that ground floor love, where those people need love too. Those people that we want to say are different, we have to have that same unconditional love no matter what they're doing. And I constantly always think of the not cool kid or the bully, the person who's committed the crimes, who everybody wants to put over there and say they're the enemy, they're the bad person. You push them aside. What do they have to lose anymore? Those are the people I always say, you don't let them come to the party. Sooner or later they show up at the party with a gun. Because they can't play, because they're bad. They did this one thing, or they did these 10 things that can never be. No one's going to forgive, I guess. When do we start to find that unconditional love? Who loves the criminals? Who loves the worst of our kind? That was Rumi's thing in the book of the Rumi. His followers he kept were a lot of the scoundrels and different things, and he could have easily had the highest of the high around him. But he said, "Well, who's supposed to help them? Who's supposed to save them? I'm trying to make them better people. Don't you see what I'm doing?" And I've kind of put myself in that situation by keeping certain people around me who had bad paths, per se, in other people's opinions. And I was like, well, who's supposed to help give them a chance to work on something good? And I was just saying, I just felt shameful to push those people away. They need help too. And I didn't know if I was here to do it, but someone's got to do it. And so there's that, what you're really saying is that true unconditional love of like, we gotta love in what's in front of you, what's being asked of you in that moment. It could be the person everyone's pushing off, and they're saying beat him up, and you're like, I need to give him a hug.
Yeah.
Because no one's hugging this person.
They probably need the hug the most.
No one's
right? And not expecting someone else to do it, right? It's having the self-responsibility to see something and make the change yourself, and not just say like, oh well, someone else will give that guy, the helping hand. Someone else will, invite that guy to come have dinner. Or someone else, because if everyone's doing that, then no one is actually being helped.
But knowing that they might not be ready for it.
Sure.
They might not be open to it yet.
Sure.
But you can plant those seeds. You can offer a little bit of your own love in the form of, would you like a hug? They might not be ready for it.
That goes to Leilani, our last guest, talked about the Hawaiian hug where you really hug, and her father would always hug, and she'd go up to hug, and she found out this one person was like, do not give me a hug.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she had to learn right there, she said, like, to respect that.
Because that's loving.
Yeah.
You're loving
And
that person
by not
by
forcing
respecting.
that hug on
Have
them.
you guys heard of the the love languages?
Yeah.
Like the different types of love languages. So like for Leilani, hers was like a physical touch, but for them, they don't communicate love in that way, and so for them that was very off-putting. For them, it might be like, oh, if you really love me, come over, spend some time with me, do some dishes or something like that. That might help them out more than they would receive a hug.
Trip the film, fantastic.
Trip.
Yes.
But also there's a way that we can help that person, even if they're not open to receiving our love in that moment, which has been for me is prayer, to actually ask for help for this person, and having that heartfelt desire to help this person, even though I might not be the one to do it in this moment, but still having this feeling of love for that person that is like, God, how can I act in this moment that will be beneficial to this person and help them to become better and.
I think that's where in the family with yoga, the union with God is so important, because when you take that time to constantly have that connection, then the communication, then when you are faced with those times to bring a sister or brother that is, so shut off from receiving love and maybe doing hurtful things to them and others, like, then you're able to help bring that bridge of love to them, like connect them a little bit. Maybe they've never had someone pray for them or somebody that's directing love in that direction towards them or asking for love to be with them.
And they might not even know that you're praying for them, but you're in that moment, you're also giving them space. So your focus stops being on them and what they need to do to get out of their space, and you focus it on God, and you're now giving them the space to expand rather than like you trying to force them to do anything. You come back to your own connection and guidance, and you're allowing that space for that person to grow themselves.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not
positive vibration.
You're not feeding this plant 24/7. You give it some water and make sure the soil's good, and you allow it to do its thing. It's able to fulfill its destiny on its own, so to speak, with everything that is given to it.
As we all are here to fulfill our destinies on our own, per se, with each other in that paradox, all doing the exact same thing in our own unique way. And the idea of we're not comparable, like I was saying last night, don't try to compare your life to another person, but to attempt to relate to them, because we do the similar routines as humans. We can go, oh, I've done that before, or I've been in that situation. I might be able to understand where that person's coming from, but I don't need to go, oh, they're doing it this way and I've done it this way, so I know what you're doing. I had to really learn that for myself, to learn how to relate and not attempt to compare my life or what I feel is the correct path, but to live in the way, understanding that since I do believe we're doing the exact same thing in our own way, that as long as I do mine in a way that is where my intention and my hopes are, it's more beneficial for everyone involved that I'm involved with, then that will work, because I'm attempting that with that intuition.
Mm-hmm.
As Junie would say, goody, goody. She's been saying that lately. It's so awesome. I don't know where she got that from. In that little voice too, she'll go, goody, goody. So awesome.
Okay.
Junie's our daughter. How you feeling, Zach?
Feeling good.
Yeah, good. Good.
What was the A in the acronym family again?
Art.
Art.
And I love that too, because that can be so many different things, right? Every human has their own art, right? And in some people, we've come back to this before too, like for some people, just being you is your art, right? You don't necessarily have to be a sculptor, you don't have to be a painter, you don't have to be a musician, you don't have to be, anything in particular. And really, we all share that, right? That our life is our artwork, right? We're trying to sculpt this thing of giving it our best shot and our best guess at like what a good life is, or what life should be, or what what we're meant to do here, and thinking about it that way. A painter might paint something, and they abhor the color that they put in that particular thing. Well, it turns out you can paint over it, and you can keep going, and you can keep adding layers and layers and layers until it is right, and you don't have to get it right the first time. And so, yeah.
I feel art in its purest form is expression and creation, and it doesn't have to be a physical object. Like poetry is the most amazing art form also, that is fleeting. It could just be spoken word. That, by the way, you're one of the most amazing spoken word artists that I've heard in all of my life, basically. Down in San Diego, seeing this man on stage is just so inspiring, to see him just this conduit that just brings through this consciousness that is amazingly understanding of the aspects of life in the moment, without having written it down before. It was just so amazing to witness that. Amazing artist. It's just beautiful art. Yeah. Thank you.
The verb of doing, that the art doesn't need to have an end product, was a big topic with his mother's episode, with Dan Erickson's episode, was it's not always about what's made, but the making. Mm-hmm. And she spoke about the kimonos that they work on for 25 years. One kimono.
Jeez.
Because it's about the process that we're going through as creating and what it's doing for us, rather than, oh, I need to make these kimonos to sell them, or I need to show somebody I've done something. You know, it's she said, I like to see how long we can make without making, without actually finishing. How long can we verb?
How did she put
and
it?
and you know, the verb of doing life, of loving, the verb of it. We're in action. And
Human being.
being.
Yes.
And again, that just comes back to like the original concept that we started with today of family, and taking each moment as like a microcosm art piece, right? Like that moment is yours to do what you want with, and to do the best thing you can with, or to try something new with. And I feel like that goes back to family, because we're taking these things that are so self-evident and inserting so much meaning into it. And it's like it's just a beautiful way to live, and to think about each day as having, okay, it has 24 hours in each day, say you're awake for 18 of those hours, that's 18 hour-long opportunities, and then you can divide that down into however many minutes that is per day, of like those are just opportunities to do something amazing with, or to think something differently. And we all get, maybe I shouldn't say we all do, but so many of us get so stuck in like these habitual kind of routines where we just are just kind of glazed over, and not really treating each moment or each day like something that can really be special, and that it doesn't have to be, going and spending $1,000 on beautiful, clothing or whatever. It's like things can be so simple and so profound and special if we just think of them that way.
I think it too, like, well, a lot I've been trying to ask, in my meditation and prayer, like asking what is, purpose of life, or what can we do to help make this world a better place. And like, I think taking each moment as a beautiful gift, and, if you're, a lot of people say your thoughts become the reality, or your mind is more powerful than you realize. And so if you take that and use that, so if you want to help make the world a better place, then taking each of those moments in that day and like to be more positive vibration, like what you could do with one day, that's a lot of opportunities.
Finding the magic in the mundane. I read a book one time, I think it was an astrology book on my astrology and a different thing, and it said you have the gift of finding the magic in the mundane. And I think that really lends to what you heard from me as an MC freestyling. Was my whole attempt was to say it's all around us at all times. Washing the dishes is just as good as building a house in its own way. These little things are magical if you know every moment is magical. And that it was what I was attempting to say is, I'm just a normal kid from Merced, California, and if you think that I have something special that I'm giving, well, all I'm saying is it's already here. It's already at our fingertips. You don't need anything more to be amazing. It is in the most simple things. You are what is amazing. And that's what I was always realizing I was doing, was saying, just be happy with where you're at, with what is, which is really the be here now, the moment, the meditation. At 19, getting into meditation changed my life. When I realized I didn't need to exist, the world would be fine. Now, if I do exist, what am I going to do with that? What am I going to do with those moments? And it's hard. I mean, Zach and I, we work at the same place, and some days we go to work, and you go in there, you might be up already, and then you're working, and you can get through the day fine. And some days it's there, and it's like swiping another thing is like, I'm here again, the same thing over and over, and trying to reinvigorate every moment, like going, that
takes a lot of deprogramming though, right? Because we're not taught that each moment is, especially the mundane moments, it's like, going to work or doing your chores around the house is like somehow what you have to do to like get to the
good parts.
the good parts of life, or like you go to work and stuff so that you can save up and go on a vacation, and you get 1 or 2 weeks a year where you get to feel like the magic of life. And so many people believe that, and so many people have bought into that, and I think that's why there is so much like rampant depression, is because obviously 52 weeks of a year and having 2 weeks a year where you feel excited and invigorated about life is not going to cut it,
and dare something to go wrong on that vacation, that it doesn't play out the way you
right?
want it.
And so many times it does, because
Right?
you've put
Too much
you
on
put
it.
so much expectation into that it backfires on you, because I feel like, in my opinion, it's life showing you like, this is insanity, like you can't do this, but it does take so much deprogramming, because I think that is how so many Americans at least are like taught to live, is having 5 days a week that just suck the life out of you, to maybe have 2 days a week on the weekends where you feel like a human. And like ultimately the reality for people is like, yeah, you do have to work 5 days a week, but it doesn't have to be soul sucking or depressing, and taking these individual moments and really, even just enjoying your cup of coffee in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Just allowing yourself to enjoy your cup of coffee.
To
Cheers.
this beautiful moment.
Life is a gift.
Right? And that can be so soul invigorating if you allow it to be, but so many people, I don't know, like we're just not taught to look at it like that.
Did you have a thought?
No.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks for being honest.
if you're always holding your breath to get to the place where you can breathe, if you're always trudging to get to the next place, how will you ever actually be there? Because once you get there, there's a new there to be.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, walking on water, that sounds great. But, to me,
never stops.
a real miracle is watching someone sit and just like they're elated. That's a miracle. That's enlightenment to me. Because human, how great is it just to be able to laugh because life is beautiful? That's what I work towards. And I try to, I still dread going to work sometimes and doing that, but like, it feels good to like drop into the samadhi, the artfulness. Like, let's chop, let's smile, let's
So
let's talk.
This is something that everybody who's watching and listening can relate to. So let me ask all of you, when you dread going to work, when you dread picking up the kid from daycare, whatever it is you're dreading, what's in your way? What is in your way?
What's the dread?
What is between you and enjoying work? What is between you and enjoying taking your kid to the doctor? Or
This is a rhetorical question, or
No.
you're actually wondering?
yeah, what stands between you and
Not happy.
enjoying?
I feel like expectation. Is
Okay.
huge. Like, having some kind of idea or fantasy or some kind of like romantic ideal of like what life should be, or what a good day should be, or what you'd rather be doing. You're just setting yourself up, but it's a paradox, right? Because you don't want to not have desires. You don't want to not have of like an idea of a good day, but it's like, how can you have that and still kind of relinquish like the expectation that is mutually exclusive with a good day, right? Like a good day can come into so many different.
It's the programming, because
going to
where did we
work
get
is
these
horrible.
ideas that going to work's horrible? From some TV show, from some movie. Where are
Yeah.
we? You look at Instagram and it's like everyone has these great lives. You feel like, well, I'm not there yet. I've got to do a few things, and maybe one day I'll have those kind of lives too. When I'm not going to say that's
Glamorous
false.
or,
But it's being projected with this is the reassessment this is why we're having this meeting today, this one. Because I felt like this episode was like solutions. People of these times, of this generation, what are we doing to reset, to unprogram? What are you doing? What are you doing? How, we are all people who are going to go our
thrive,
ways,
to not just
to go
survive,
back
but
into.
thrive.
And we have had those things projected onto us. As much as I loved every TV show I ever watched, every movie I thought was the greatest movie when I was 12, 13, I realize now we were watching fake dramas, these things that never truly existed except for on that screen, that showed us how to react when someone stole your car, showed us how to react when someone cheated on you, showed us how to do these things.
Set the expectation
Set
that
the
love is a
expectation.
rom-com.
And that if
Good
you're not living this
relationship.
way,
Who set the expectation?
the movies, the TV shows and
I
stuff.
think a lot of
Okay.
it is programming.
Whatever
I
we
think a lot of
watched.
it is.
That's the programming
The
we're
agreed
saying.
upon reality.
Hollywood told you that this is how life's supposed to be.
And so if
then
you're
what
not doing
happened?
it,
But then what happened?
well, you're not living that way, and you go to pick up your kid, and you're going, well, my life sucks.
Hollywood gave you a message.
Uh-huh.
Then what happened?
You believed it. You
Say that
believed it.
again.
You believed it.
You believed it.
I believed
which was
it.
a choice.
Which was, sure, a choice, but we are so unconscious
And
of
it
the
happens
choices
at
that
such a
form
young
us.
age.
Yeah, and I think it's
You know,
generation.
we're so
I'm not
impressionable.
saying that
So
it's
here-
easy to see. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
that these choices give you
Yeah.
a long time to think about it.
Well,
I'm
when you're
saying
11,
that
you're not really
you-
conceiving. I shouldn't believe what
No.
people tell me. You believe what your
11,
mom and dad
how
tell
about
you.
4 years old watching Disney princess movies, and you start, you develop that, ideal that's what, is going to happen to you, that someone's going to come and just, or that's like a perfect relationship's just going to be magical all the time, or
Or
something
that's what
like
life's
that.
about.
Which
It
is why I
starts
think
so
it's
young.
so important to
We're not
have
even
that
given a chance.
parental guidance. I mean,
Other
even
options,
Even
other-
if the parent's
yeah.
not there, somebody that is in that place of guiding that child. 'Cause if you
15
put a
years
child-
later,
if you put a child in
after
front of a
watching
TV,
those movies,
and
you're
you
with
just
these people.
allow them to
Yeah.
take all of that in without discussing it with them from your own experience and point of view.
Right. They're not
Then-
being given they're not being given like a context for it. I do feel like, that's like the argument against having like television, like raise your child, right? Like you're plopping them in front of something, and, it's one thing if you're watching something together and maybe providing like some kind of like age appropriate like context or explanation or discussion around something, because that at least is helping that person develop like their own sense of like analysis or thought about something. But I think
So important.
it gets lost because that doesn't happen, right? So it literally is just like Hollywood or whatever the thing is getting to have their say without anyone else putting their input into it,
filter.
or a filter, or exactly some kind of
there's
context.
censorships. There's all kinds of people telling Hollywood what to put in their movies.
yeah.
Sure.
Right.
And there are some really amazing movies that come out that are
Sure.
amazingly inspirational and have the best messages. And it's all about, finding those ones to share with, and even creating those ones. Like,
Creating those ones
we
yourself,
would
right?
love to create those types of, media that is inspirational and helps people to learn the importance of, treating everybody the way we wish to be treated, and the importance of love, and finding the truth of the matter.
Which is exactly why we're here.
Yeah, and this is one of those
Exactly why we
outlets
created
that-
this.
Thank you so much for creating something that is, this.
All of
this-
us
You're
co-creating.
Take that. You're a huge part of this.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to throw into that last question. I think one of the big things I hear is that when we don't question what we're given, we assume that we know better, or that what has been told is better than what we can find. And the initial question is, how do you get through the day? What do you think about? It's like,
What was in the way of you
What
being
was in the way?
happy?
Yeah.
that's what it is. You mentioned our fantasy, our expectation of what we think the day is. I've learned in my art, what can be is always greater than what I'd planned, and nothing ever is what we think it will be exactly. And so once I stay loose in the car crash to survive, that the moment is the 32,000 seconds in a day, it helps me not be angry with it not having been what I thought it was going to be. And so I think when I approach the expectation, I try to just shake it loose, maybe do a little breath, a little meditate.
We went to a Unity Church up in Grants Pass recently, and one of the discussions was all about the expectations, and and we all wrote down our expectations, like put I should, and then list everything you feel you should be or you should be doing. And one of the things that I brought up is that you can change one word, should, to could, and that completely eliminates your, like,
The pressure.
it's a, yeah. So it's no longer like I should be doing this, but I could be doing this. So it opens the infinite potential of our experience to be something greater, if possible, than what we think, you know, it should be right now or could be later.
My mom said should be taken out of the vocabulary for that same reason. That was her whole point. She said that's the worst word we've done to ourselves. That, you know, that was what.
It's messy going around shooting
Right.
yourselves.
And I think, yeah.
With
So-
a D.
Kind
We're-
of getting out of each other's way.
We're running out of time,
Oh.
so I'm going to answer my own question, and then I
Yes,
think Ken
yes.
wants to play a song. When I was 8, Hollywood told me that a real man is a Power Ranger. So every day since I was 8, I chose to try to be a Power Ranger. And if I wasn't a Power Ranger with my magic sword fighting the forces of evil, I was disappointed in myself. And I made that choice every day since I was 8. And now I'm 31, and I'm not making that choice anymore.
Yeah.
Were you the Red Ranger?
Black.
Black Ranger.
His name was Zach.
Okay.
So I too in San Diego got the blessing of hearing this gentleman play music, and has moved me more times than I know into emotional states that many other people have never have. And at the same way that I think we saw each other very equally. You know, I watched you play. I was like, wow, and you would say the same thing to me. So I always felt such an honor to get to hear you play. So if you'd like to play a song for us in this episode, that'd be beautiful.
We got a guitar right here.
Oh, hey.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, what a coincidence.
I'm gonna sit back a little.
This one's called Transformational Vibrations.
James,
Oh.
mic is okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull it back a little bit, just to get, because I know you get a little
My cousin
powerful
married
too.
one of the
So
Power
do your
Rangers in the
thing.
new movie.
Introduce me.
Feel free to hum along, sing along if you feel any moment in there. There's a way to explain that which words could never say. Like in a maze within a cage, we've been locked down too many days. Without these chains we'd never change. Breaking free from all this pain. And that's all I'm saying. Is this some kind of trick? Do we have to go through it to get a bit of inner bliss? We might as well swim past that ship. Take a trip to the abyss. Find a tree and take a say. And just enjoy it. When these words start to hurt, you know it's time to work on coming back to the intentions of the first. have learned round this circle as it turns through this fire of pure light to ignite and burn, to burn. The time has come to become one for all is one. What have we done? Daughters and sons in all the world with all of these guns. We've just begun and it's only some, but that some is more than one. We
Thank you.
all right.
That's beautiful.
Thank you guys so much for having us over.
Yeah.
You just said in an hour-long conversation. You just said what we talked about in an hour-long conversation in one 3-minute song. That was
I
everything.
don't know if I got everything in there.
I think that was pretty much everything. Well, I think you did.
Sum it up,
I think
Zach.
you did.
Oh yeah, no, we're good. Thank you. Thank you, Ken and Bridgette, Sun Yoga, Winlung, Kara, and Variance Media.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
And thank
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
We love
We'll
you.
be at our new location on the next one too. So.
You're now listening to the sounds of A.A.M.I.L.Y.
You know, 'cause I always thought that verse was before that major lift. And when you did this time, I almost thought you cut it out for a second. I've heard that song so many times.
Bring it back.
Where's that part? You know, that one line. And then you do the major, and then you just reset one more time. What have we done? And that's like, was always my message. Like, what have we done?
How did it get this far?
But you know, and then we are one. You know, the reset, the refrain back, turn it back in, you know. Beautiful.
I feel it's been like my experience in life, and it seems like yours too, which is like from a child to this point of like, ah!
Oh man.
And then now coming back to like, oh.
I remember the day walking down the street in Merced, walking down G Street, just freestyling, yelling as loud as I could at every car. Fuck you, fuck all you people. If
You're cool.
If you're not about it, if you're not about love.
Okay, that's my mom. I'm like, okay, you're chill.
You know,
You're alright.
It was on that. It was on the Destructive Bunny. It was that creation of Destructive Bunny character of like, I am going to destroy that Ray 1 vibe. That I'm here to destroy so it can be rebuilt. It was never to kill, but it was to burn down what needs to leave so that the new world can be built. And it was that anger that shot through me that day.